Hello, SED 310 classmates. My name is Jane Hunt, and the topic I picked for my topic exploration is conduct disorder. The definition of CD is a persistent pattern of rule breaking, antisocial, or aggressive behavior, including defiance, fighting, bullying, disruptiveness, exploitiveness, and disturbed relations with peers and adults. It is one of the most frequently diagnosed conditions in outpatient and inpatient mental health facilities for children. So, right away, we see this is a very extreme disability. It often results in children being taken out of school and put in health facilities or alternative education. Many experts and researchers believe that even with counseling, children with CD are never able to recover or live a normal life with this disability. And even researchers who do believe that counseling could be helpful, like Cochrane and Cochrane, warn without effective treatment, students with CD are predicted to encounter such problems as substance abuse, academic failure, criminal involvement, suicidal behavior, and a high probability of premature death. So even researchers who really advocate for intense counseling when children with CD are younger are still wary of what could happen with these kids a little bit down the road. Some possible causes of conduct disorder are very much linked to children's environment and home life. Some of these causes are home ecology, marital discord, or problems between parents or caregivers at home, and inept family socialization. Now, coercive interactions with parents and teachers really heighten CD. So, if kids are starting to show signs of CD, the coercive processes can heighten and strengthen the CD in kids at home and at school. And the coercive process is the process whereby children learn to escape or avoid parental criticism by escalating their negative behaviors. This in turn leads to increasingly aversive parent interactions and escalating dysregulation on the part of the child. These negative parent responses directly model and reinforce the child's conduct problems. And that's a passage from Carolyn Webster Stratton, M. Jamila Reed, and Mary Hammond's article, Treating Children with Early Onset Conduct Problems, Intervention Outcomes for Parent, Child, and Teacher Training. So causes of CD are almost always based in environment and then just really heightened by these coercive interactions and probably poor parenting or parents who are ignorant as to how to deal with the CD. Many people believe that students with conduct disorder don't have feelings or only feel anger because students with conduct disorder really exhibit a lot of disturbing, violent, aggressive, destructive behaviors and don't seem to show any remorse for it. So people think that they don't have any feelings. This is a huge misconception as students with conduct disorder are really motivated by feelings of fear and anxiety. Common thoughts they have are that people won't like or love me. I can't be loved or liked. I'm a terrible person. I will be rejected or abandoned by others. No one will understand me, and I'm powerless to change this. These thoughts lead to more intensified thoughts, such as unlove, dislike, and rejection will be intolerable. I may cease to exist or disappear. Thus, I must drive others away, avoid unlove, dislike, and rejection at all costs. So students believe that they will experience unlove and rejection. That's inevitable. And when that moment comes, that will be intolerable to them and just unbearable. So they want to gain power over the situation and create barriers and push people away before they can be rejected themselves. So this gives students with conduct disorder a sense of calm and a feeling of power if they're able to facilitate the rejection before it sort of happens to them. So they're really motivated from a place of fear and really deep insecurity, not anger, as many people believe. Some more intensified thoughts are others are out against me, out to get me, don't love, like, accept, or understand me. Thus, I must defend myself against all aggression. So again, they're combating perceived aggression with more aggression and destruction. And again, the feelings that really motivate their actions are fear of unlove, dislike, rejection, alienation, and loneliness, and anxiety. So contrary to many people's beliefs, children with conduct disorder actually feel a great deal. They just express it a lot differently than most of us. The Musser category that CD falls into is emotional or behavioral disorder. Now, the researchers Myers and Murray, in their article Conduct Disorders and the Special Education Trap, which we'll talk about in a few moments, argue or caution us that CD is not to be confused with severely emotionally disturbed, and that many times children with CD are diagnosed with SED, which is actually kind of a less extreme disability, and so they aren't given as much help as they need. Some classroom implications are pretty disturbing. Students may threaten physical harm to people or animals, steal, damage property, lie, exhibit violent behavior, violate rules, and many students with CD also have ADHD. So on top of all of their behaviors that are stemming from their conduct disorder, they also exhibit the behaviors of children with ADHD. Now, unfortunately, teachers really can only help students with CD after a counselor has already done intensive work. And the window of opportunity for that work is between ages 5 and 10. So middle and high school students who haven't had that work done with a counselor in that elementary age may do better in alternative education, because really without that initial work of the counselor, a classroom teacher, there aren't really any accommodations they can put in place to help students with conduct disorder. Now, Jeff L. Cochran and Nancy H. Cochran, in their article Using the Counseling Relationship to Facilitate Change in Students with Conduct Disorder, really advocate for a type of therapy called child-centered play therapy, or CCPD. And they say it is based on the assumption that all people, including children, have a strong drive within that strives for growth, independence, and self-efficacy or self-actualization. CCPT allows children to express intense feelings in a modality, play and art, that is appropriate for age and cognitive ability. In addition, CCPT allows for a genuine counseling relationship to develop between the adult counselor and the young student with CD. During the play therapy session, the student with CD is able to freely express feelings in a safe environment without fear of judgment or punishment. So counselors really create an empathetic, safe space for these children, and they really work through a lot of the issues for these kids who are experiencing CD, and that work needs to be done before teachers can be of help. So what can teachers do? Well, first of all, we can ensure that the student receives that intensive counseling should we be the first ones to catch the conduct disorder. We want to work with the counselor to construct a behavior plan. And once that behavior plan is in place and the student has had their counseling, we can make sure to give consistent positive notices, so catching the student being good and being successful in the classroom and really praising them. Expressing acceptance while not conveying that negative behavior is acceptable. So we accept the child for who he or she is while not necessarily accepting the bad behavior. And encouraging other students to help the student who has CD by befriending her when her behaviors are wise, so when she is exhibiting appropriate behaviors, and keeping their distance when her behaviors are unwise. We can make sure we don't play into those coercive interactions, that heightened, disturbing behavior that is meant to manipulate us into getting what the child wants. Providing opportunities for teamwork, sharing, listening, feelings sharing, and problem solving. Having age appropriate expectations, meaning if we have a 5-year-old with CD in our classroom, we have to also remember that they are just a 5-year-old and will experience tantrums and some of that behavior that just has to do with them being 5 years old and not so much with them having a conduct disorder. We want to collaborate with parents, as always, and be positive, accepting, consistent, empathetic, and full of positive regard. In their article, Conduct Disorders and the Special Education Trap, Murray and Myers argue that schools are not dealing appropriately with students with CD. They argue that students who have CD are usually so badly behaved that special education classes and typical special education services would not help them. These students, they argue, need to be dealt with to the full extent of the law and not coddled in a zero expulsion school system. They write, all too commonly, educators interpret educational laws to mean that students who elect to act inappropriately are to be referred and approved for special education settings that tolerate such ill behavior rather than holding those students accountable for their actions. Often, such examples of antisocial and/or criminal conduct are wrongly determined to be a manifestation of a student's disability, and whether appropriate or not, require placement into the severely emotionally disturbed setting. So my questions are, Murray and Myers take a much different approach to CD than Cochran and Cochran, who advocate for the CCPT, empathy, acceptance, and positive regard. With whom do you agree and why, or maybe a little bit of both? Do you agree there is no hope for certain students once they reach middle and high school age? Do you believe that they cannot be reached by counseling? And the authors write, they have witnessed too many placement conferences driven by classroom teachers and administrators who would prefer not to deal with these students. They argue that these teachers stick these students in special ed classes to the detriment of everyone in the school. Have you ever seen this happen? So teachers trying to kind of pawn off kids on special ed. And do you think special education is too much of a soft touch for students with CD? Murray and Myers mentioned that they think that when students with conduct disorder go to special ed classes, their behavior is tolerated. Do you think that is the case? And do you think special education classrooms are an appropriate place for a student with conduct disorder or not? So here's where I got my all of my quotes, and here's my research. And I thank you for listening to my presentation, and I look forward to discussing it with you online soon.